Hey guys, this is Trevor Probant. This is the Land Investing Dirt Road to Wealth podcast. We have two people on today, another first for the podcast. We have Angela and Terence Stokes. They are an awesome land couple they work in Virginia and West Virginia for the most part, but they're also part of our subdividing masterclass. And I want to have them on today. It's really cool what they're doing with some of their marketing. That's, an old fuddy-duddy like me, I'm not doing. And it's pretty neat what they're using the technology to streamline their business and build long-term relationship and kind of come in to dominate their margin or their market. So anyway, Angela, Terrence, tell us a little bit about y'all, how long you've been married, where y'all are at, kiddos, stuff like that. And then Angela, go into why you got into the land business.
Well, thanks for having us, first off. I mean, it's going to be hard to follow up some of the guys that you've already had.
Don't give them a big head. They don't need that.
But no, we appreciate you having us on for sure. I've been a career firefighter for the last 9 years in Fairfax County, Virginia. I was a police officer prior to that, so public safety's pretty much been, in my wheelhouse for a long time. So the land investing business, I'm going to let Angela. She's been in the government as well. So we were two government servants, before we started getting into land. So I'll let her speak to her side and how she got us started in, the land business.
Yeah. Well, first, we've been married for 11 years.
Yeah, 11, I think it is 11 years. Yeah.
No, 12 years.
Yeah,
12 years. 12 years.
12 years.
So we've been together since high school. So we're high school sweethearts. We've been together for I think 24 years.
What took you so long?
Yeah.
So and
Why
married
couldn't you get your
for
shit
12.
together?
So hey, I know the numbers.
Why did it take you so long to marry her? That's what I'm asking.
Oh well, hey.
We were so young.
Yeah, we were young. That was the thing. So
Yeah.
we wanted to be established. We didn't want to, rush into things.
Oh,
We
for
wanted to be
sure. See, you
established
did
and have,
it the smart way.
solid
Katie and I
careers.
didn't. We just jumped into stuff. So yeah, we're 14 years in. So
And we have two.
yep.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah. We have two boys. Gannon just turned 9, and Carter's about to turn 7. So they keep
Yep.
us really, really busy.
Yes.
That's why you have seen me on the master class, because I'm always chasing them around to and from school. So on my history, I did enter the business field straight out of college, worked in Washington, D.C. near the Capitol, manager of human resources and staffing for a federal agency for almost 10 years, and then decided that I wanted to stay home once we had our second son, Carter. So we kind of just decided to make a big change. We decided to move further out from D.C., the Winchester, Virginia area, where I could stay home. We were planning to just, live on the one salary and just, completely change our lives, because I worked probably almost as much, if not more, than he did. So it was a huge change for us. So in 2020, towards the end of 2020, it was like October, November timeframe, I heard Justin Sleva on a podcast. I think it was the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast at the time. I've always been a podcast junkie, but with COVID, I, found myself having more time, and, I'm just a proclaimed nerd in like finance and investing and things like that. So that was all me. So I heard Justin talking about his Coffee Money book at the time. The one where you could, he talked about the Coastal Commissioner of State Land Properties in Arkansas, where you can spend, $50 and flip them for, and I was like, well, that sounds simple. Like, if he can do that, I can do that, is exactly what I thought. So I purchased the book, like the ebook. I think it was like $10 at the time, probably the best $10 I've ever spent. And then so I studied through that, and then I scheduled a call with Adam Southey about the course, Grant Landfill Blue course. So then I don't think he knew about any of this at the time.
I had no clue.
Well, hold on, Angela, before you get started, so had you? And this is a funny thing, because almost all of us have been this way, right? Like, and I came from a family that flipped land and did all this other stuff, right? However, I didn't go that direction because I was too smart, right? Like, I wanted to do like big commercial deals, all this other stuff. Had you been learning like the investment side and not just the land, but like all this other stuff? How long had you been working and listening and not acting on it, or had you just been barely listening to it?
Yeah, I mean, really just barely. It's just been a hobby and an interest. Like, it's never been beyond that, because You said your family, you grew up in land. We grew up very differently from that.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really have, anyone to look to. I didn't really know how to get started because in school they don't teach you these kinds of things, right? I mean, I did study some invest in some business, but not this stuff at all. So it was all new to me. So I thought this was a kind of low barrier of entry to just jump in and get started. And so, got the blueprint course from Adam and started going through that. I went through the whole thing by myself first without him, and then started buying small properties. And then I told him kind of what I was doing, and you can kind of speak to what you thought about that.
Yeah, I was extremely skeptical. I mean, I think one
shit
of the
properties
first deals
in
that you really
Arkansas.
came-
Yeah. For $12.16.
Exactly.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
hey, I would just like to say that, that really did work. He said you can buy them for 50. I bid on several of them, bought 2 of them for 50. I think one I sold for like 800 or 900 and one I sold for 1,400. So, and then I was like, okay, I can do this. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm at work. I have, she didn't even talk to me face to face about this. I'm at work and I get a phone call at the firehouse, and she's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a property in Arizona." And I'm like, "Okay, well, where is it?" And she said Mojave County, and I start, looking up on the computer Mojave County, and I'm looking, and I'm like, "This is in the middle of the desert. Like, who is going to buy, this property?" And I think you bought it for $10,000.
Yeah.
Once again, and I'm just like, wait a second, 10 grand for something in the middle? Like, there's nobody buying these type of properties in my mind, because I didn't know the research. I didn't listen to the podcast. But she turned around and sold that property for $43,000 on terms. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, that's
what's so cool about
hooked.
land, right? Is you can start at 10,000 or you can start at 1,000, right? And people can do that, and it proves in their brain, it clicks, right? And you're like, oh shit, like this stuff does work, right? And you're like, now how do I scale? How do I scale, right? Because it's not enough. Like, you're not going to do one of these deals like you can do, one giant apartment complex and you're done, or things like that. Like, well, even that you're not done. But like, you have that one belief, right? And it's the gateway drug to what you're trying to do. And like you said, you went from coastal to then buying 10 grand and then selling on terms for 40, whatever. Even that step is a lot more than a lot of people will do. Believe me, I talk to people all the time. They'll ask me, and dude, I'll tell people exactly what to do, and it's amazing. They'll listen to this podcast. They'll be like, oh, and I will tell them exactly the first few steps. Basically, almost like what we kind of do in the masterclass. I was like, listen, you need to go here, 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 and you need to talk to these people. How many people ever follow up with that? Mm-hmm. 0. Like, the cool thing with you is you were willing to take the action and get it done, right? And so you got that deal in Mojave, you sold it on terms, and then what happened?
Well, then, I mean, $10,000 is a lot of money, like you said, and it's not like us, like most people, we didn't have, 100 grand liquid just sitting there. So then we needed to decide. Like, I had my federal retirement, sitting because I didn't know what I was going to do in the future. So we had to really take some gambles and make some decisions about, how are we going to liquidate some things to keep going? Did we want to use funding partners? So I did a little bit of all of that. I even did what's called land arbitrage. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I did that for one, just to
explain. Angela, explain what
really
land arbitrage is to people that have never heard of it.
So, land arbitrage is basically wholesaling, but with terms. So, if you had a property listed on terms for just a little more than what you paid for it, I would buy it from you, and then I would turn around and sell it on terms for more. And then I just made the delta between there. So that's a really low risk way to get started.
Is that
for sure?
So guys, let's explain that. Just most people have never even heard of that term, right? So say I come in and I'm going to buy this Mojave property, and I bought it for $5,000, just for easy numbers, right? $5,000, right? I'm going to sell it to you at $10,000, right? But I'm going to sell that at maybe $100 or maybe $100 a month or whatever to you until we hit that 10,000. Then Angela would go out. She's the one that would hustle, that would find a retail buyer on owner finance. Then that would be willing to pay $200 a month, right? At $20,000 long term. Yeah. And then you're going to make the delta, which means the first $100 or the difference between the $100 and $200 a month payment, you put in your pocket, right? And hopefully you pay them off quicker. And then once your what would you call that? Your partner, your funder, your other land. I don't know what you would call that, but anyway, as soon as the original guy or gal is paid off, then whatever the difference is on that is what you would make longer term. So anyway, it's an interesting way to go about with. If you're good at marketing, if you're very good at building your systems, things like this, which obviously you're good at that, right? It's a fantastic way to get in and build cash flow without a lot of cash out of pocket.
Yeah, it definitely is. Especially, we get approached all the time about how to get started, just like you were saying, from friends and his coworkers and things, and we try to help them out. But that biggest barrier to everyone is capital, obviously.
Yeah. I think Derek on the first original podcast, he's kind of similar situation. He still works full time, and he talks to guys all the time at work, and they're always interested in asking, hey, what are you doing and how are you doing it? And he explains it to them, but none of them actually follow through. I do it at work too. I mean, guys are just fascinated. They're like, man, how are you doing this? Like, how does it work? And I explain it to them and I talk to them, and I actually have one guy that actually took me up on it, and he started his own business. And he calls me all the time for advice, and I have no problem helping him out, getting him started, and I even told him I'd be a funding partner for him if he had something good to bring it to me. But it's just, I must have told 100 people at work what I do, and one person actually latched onto it and started their own business.
About 1%. That makes pretty good sense, to be honest with you. And that's like, why do I give all this stuff away? Or like the whole masterclass deal, right? Like, why would I do that, right? Well, first of all, like, there's so much. I could raise $10 billion and not buy everything I wanted, right? Like, I mean, just the opportunity is just so huge, right? But also, like, I only want to work, and that's why it's pretty expensive, and that's why we made it that way, is because, like, we only want people that want to put in the work to get there, right? And I don't want to have to put all my heart, soul, and effort into somebody that's we know is going to half-ass it, And it's
Right.
it sucks sometimes, but sometimes you just like, I can't. And I've had some very, very good friends of mine ask me how to help and do all this other stuff. You explain to them, you do whatever you can. Like, I'll do this and I'll do that and everything else, and it just kind of goes into the ether, which I guess is good, right? Like, I guess if everybody jumped in it, the opportunities wouldn't quite be there. So, anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell everyone the concept is simple. It is. You buy land for one price, but it's not
Well,
easy.
nothing worth doing is easy, right?
I always tell everyone.
Right. I mean, it really is, like, and you've got to understand that. And the thing is you have to have that curiosity, and you have to have that inner drive to keep pushing when stuff goes sideways. Like, I literally just got a freaking email from a gal actually on that Carlsbad place that y'all looked at, right? We are going to have to plat it, even though it has nothing to do with the county. Anyway, just stuff, and it's not that big a deal, but like, things are always happening, and everything punches you in the teeth and kicks you in the shin, and it's just part of business, right? The cool thing is our business is still a lot easier than quote unquote real businesses, right? Like, I came from the oil field. Like, talk about competition, talk about racing to zero. Right? Like, that's tough. That's super tough. This is pretty darn simple, right? Again, it's marketing, and then it's trying to find capital and trying to find your arbitrage in between, right? Like, we're not out there writing code. We're not out there, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different ballgame. So that's what's pretty neat about that. So, but Angela, so y'all got started. You sent that out. You started with Mojave. You did some arbitrage stuff, and this is all from into 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, end of 2020.
See, y'all are
beginning of
awesome, man. Y'all are kicking ass. Y'all are way faster than we are, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with because there is more information out there now, even from 2015, right? Like, there's way more information, especially in this niche. And so it's a little easier for folks to get sped up if they want to, and if they've got that want to and how. So what are y'all kind of doing now, and how did that springboard you, like those first couple arbitrage deals and things like this? Like, how did that springboard y'all into doing the bigger deals, right? Is it using Adam and Justin stuff and doing like the bass boat, the bigger, more expensive properties, and y'all are in a great market that you could turn for cash during a hot market, or kind of how did that work?
It was definitely a hot market, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
We could have started at a better time, honestly. I mean, we couldn't get properties fast enough, and they were flying, off the shelves, especially in like Florida. We do a lot.
Nice.
I do a lot in Florida. He does the local stuff. But Florida was such a hot market. It still is. It still is. It's just saturated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that first year, we just hustled, and I did make the steps. We talked to, some financial advisors. We opened some whole life policies and funded those with my retirement. We just made some big leaps. That was scary, but, between, Justin's group and a few other groups that we were in, like you mentioned, networking, I mean, that's key. I mean, as long as you surround yourself with people who are like you, we're like, there's no reason we can't do this.
It's kind of cool, isn't it? You're like, they're just as full of shit as I am.
It is.
Right? Like...
Yeah, well, it's refreshing because you look around you and your friends think you're crazy. They don't know what you're doing. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
Your neighbor, nobody really gets
our
it.
family was like, "You guys are doing what?"
My mom thought it was a pyramid scheme. She actually asked me, "Some kind of pyramid scheme?"
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that first year, our revenue, it was 1.5 million, which was amazing. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And most of that was funded through funding partners.
Yep.
Honestly, the big stuff. We were still kind of at the point where we were getting ready to start funding our own bigger deals, but we weren't really ready to make that leap. Figured, someone told me, one of our coaches said that, it's better to get a half of a watermelon than a whole grape. And so that kind of stuck with me. And so we did that for a bit.
Yeah.
And then it started, you start getting that taste in your mouth of, this profit and what it could have been had you been the one to fund it. And then that kind of gave us the courage to kind of start doing that.
Yeah.
And then we started doing some automation, which, I think that's another area that you can really automate yourself to death. I think there's a fine line between,
There's a fine line between automating yourself to death and me. There's somewhere in the... But it's interesting that you say that, right? Because, and this is something that you're always going to have no matter what. But like, is it better for me to keep my powder dry and use funding partners and always try to high grade them, right? And you're like, listen, they want to do it, and that's where I'm at right now. And we talk about it on our calls all the time with masterclass stuff, right? Like, where am I at on my hierarchy when it comes to funders, right? Well, this guy wants 25%, this guy wants 12, this one guy wants 50. But if I can still keep my powder dry, right, for whenever maybe I buy one that's just a home run deal that we know is going to be a home run, keep it myself, there's a lot of wisdom in that, hey, zero money out of pocket minus your marketing fees, right? There's a lot of wisdom in that. Keeping that powder dry, especially for your next year or two or whatever it may be, sleeping really good at night. You know what I'm saying? And working on all this stuff. And I say it on my podcast all the time. I was like, you are a land marketer, right? We're not land investors. We're land flippers, right? That's what we do. We're not holding on to this shit for, the highway's coming in 10 years, right? That's not what we are. We're marketers, and our product is land, right? That is what...
Right.
Correct.
Right. And the velocity of money, the fact that you can turn things so much faster if you're using other people's money, honestly, if you really think about it, it makes up for it. You're really not losing out because you have the ability.
And that's what I wanted to say whenever you said you started thinking about how much money you could have made, right? There's trade-offs in everything in life.
Yeah.
But sleeping well is worth a lot. You know what I mean? When you've got all your money out there and you're like, and Jerome Powell says we're going to 10%, and you're like, son of a gun. You know what I mean? Now we've got to kind of think about stuff. And obviously, like I said, Terrence is working another job. You know what I mean? If things went sideways for a year or whatever it is. But there's a lot to be said for that. And opening up your mouth, and you've got a track record. You've got people that know, like, and trust you. You know what I'm saying? And maybe you got a list of 40 or 50 or 60 or 100 people that want to put in, 50 or 100 or, whatever it is. Then again, you send that out and say, hey, who wants this? This is the terms that we're offering, whatever it is, right? You build that database of folks that know, like, and trust you, know what you do, that have money to spend, whether that's with a self-directed IRA, whether that's just cash sitting in the bank, whatever, they would still rather invest with you when you show them real numbers, real comps, your price point, right? And the nice thing with that is, listen, worst thing that happens is, 20% goes to you no matter what. And if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, we're only going to make 10% on the deal, right? Like the prices come way down. Either way, you're taken care of because we're buying this at 40 cents on the dollar, right? And that actually allows you to scale much faster. Because this, and the only reason I say that is, again, because you said that, but also I talk to tons and tons of people, and they're like, I got a deal, give me. It's my deal. I deserve all this money. And I won't take a dime less than this. And they come in and they have a couple offers right off the bat that were a little less than what they thought, but this is the market talking to them. And all of a sudden, a year later, they're like, shit, I needed to, now I'm having to, I've paid this, this, and this. And more importantly, I've taken my eye off the ball in this business, right? It's a volume business, velocity of capital. It's a real big thing when ego gets in the way, right? Ego always before the fall. Try not to let that happen. And again, we're all older, right? Like, it's not like we're all 20 or 19 or, you know what I mean? And we're the smartest people that's ever walked, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We've got kids and some scars and things like that, and we've paid our dues. But it's just something to kind of think about, right? Because if you really look at the scalability is for you to focus on finding good deals and selling those deals. Right? So anyway, that's just something to think about, because and I didn't, not just for y'all, but for everyone that was listening. That's kind of why I wanted to say that, because again, I come across tons of people that are just like, no, this thing is worth $70,000. That's what my realtor said. I was like, dude, I buy properties $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 below what they said it was worth, right? Like your land's worth whatever someone's willing to pay. And it hurts some people's feelings when, especially if they come from the housing side and everything, where it's a much more perfect market. You don't have giant swings and everything else like that. It's just a different ballgame. Right. So,
it's funny you mention that because, we go back and forth on that. Angela will sell property if we can make $20,000 instead of $50,000. She'll take the 20 right now to reinvest somewhere else to make more money. And I'm like, let's hold on.
It's a balance. It is absolutely a balance, and that's what business is, right? Is you're constantly checking assets versus liabilities, cash flow versus cash in, cash out, and again, that it's still a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, it is. You know what? It's funny because we sit here and I mentioned to you beforehand, a lot of these guys, a master class, when we sit there and talk, they'll say it's a lonely business, and we've made it a partnership. I mean, it's great. And we have that to bounce off of each other when these deals come up, so we're not making poor decisions. Because, we have a lot invested in this. So for us to sit there and look at make these decisions together are probably better, for
100%.
Than it would be for somebody else solely sitting there by themselves saying, hey, should I jump into this or not?
Yeah.
So.
Plus, just from a time perspective, he can really, especially since starting the master class, really devote time to looking for subdivides and really, going back through old leads and pulling stuff up. And, I do a lot. I also do, a lot of the smaller markets that we do. But in addition to that, I do all the paperwork, all the coordinating with title companies or banks and, all of that goes along with that, bookkeeping. And, it's actually it's a full-time job. Imagine someone do all of that. That's all of everything else.
Yeah, I got to say, dude.
I get to call people and negotiate. So.
He talks to people. That's all he does. Is talk
I like to talk, so it's perfect. So.
Same, Terrence. Same. I completely understand. So where are you? Yeah, go ahead.
But it's good. So just to tell you, our first mailer that we sent out was to West Virginia, and you were saying it was a good time to get in, and properties were just flying, and one of the first deals that I negotiated, and I'm new at this. I'm still trying to learn, what do I say to these people, and how do I, navigate this, and I'm doing a bunch of research on this property before I even call the guy. Like, how much did he pay for it? So I'm trying not to insult him. So we sent a mailer out to Hardy County, West Virginia, and we offered the guy $24,000 for 22 acres. It was 22.8 acres. So I get on the county's website and I start looking. This guy bought this property for $139,000 back in 2004. So, and he called us back. And our mailer was offering him $24,000. So I I called him and started talking to him, and he's like, "Can you give me $30,000 for it?" And I'm just smiling ear to ear, and I'm like, "You know what? Let me call you back in about an hour or two. I just want to research the property a little further." And I'm smiling the whole time. I'm like, "Man, this is amazing."
Right.
Yeah, I was like, "This is amazing. There's no way this is going to happen." So I get off the phone with him. I call my realtor, who's in West Virginia, and I send him the property. I said, "Hey, can you go look at this property for me and tell me what you think it would be worth, if we listed it?" He drives up, he takes a look at it, he says, "We can list this thing all day long for $110,000. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, this guy wants $30,000 for this. So I call him back and I hem-haw around, and I'm like, "Well," I said, "look, after looking at the property, I think we can do the $30,000, And he accepted it. And we ended up selling that property, I think 5 or 6 months after we bought it, for $90,000. So, it worked out. And, so it worked out. But, it was just like that. This is just hooking me even more. You talk about a Mojave property for 10,000, terms 43. I was hooked. Like, I'm ready to quit my job. Like,
I know. We discussed that in Sonora. Yeah.
Yeah, we always talk about, we have this insurance because I still have a full-time job where a lot of guys have left, and this is what they do. And it's just like, I've turned down a promotion at work just because I'm so invested in this that, I enjoy this. I love it. It's fun. And it's like I said, it's made our marriage fun.
Well,
so.
Yeah. Well, for sure. And it's really cool whenever you can do stuff kind of in your, when you move to, from Mojave, Arizona to your backyard, right? And you got a realtor and you do all this other stuff. And then you're like, holy crap, I can see us buying 100 acres for ourselves one of these days at 50 cents on the dollar, right? Or whatever you plan on. Or like, hey, I can buy that 10 acres down on the river, right? We've always dreamed about having a place over there, and I can buy it for 40 cents on the dollar, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that again, the marketing allows you to do, right? Like it's the marketing, and it's interesting because it literally breaks something in your brain when that shit happens, right? Like you said, like you go from, because I had 2 of those in Coconino County, just south of Prescott. This past, I guess it was December or whatever. No, actually, one of them I sold at the deal at the jail bar, and then I had another one, and both of them were, they were bought in 2007 and 2008. One was for 120, one was for 130. I bought them for 22 and 26. But the thing is, I also sold them for 57 and 72, right? Again,
yeah.
But like, I don't even care about that anymore, which is messed up, right? like. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you expect it after a while. And and that's true with everything in life, right? You get what you expect, right? Whether that's in marriage, whether that's with your kids, whether that's in business, whatever that is. But it's a really, really cool thing that y'all do have. And there's a few folks I know, but for y'all to work together on this stuff and to have that sounding board and to have that, board meeting every day, right, with where you're at and things like that. Like, that's a super, super cool thing that y'all have. And there's so many, like you said, talking about a lonely business and things like this. Like, it's interesting how all that works. Like, because it is, and that's why there's so many people in these silly Facebook groups, right? Like, hey, no one else around me knows anything about this, and I'm a leper to many people, and they're like, oh, they think I'm selling drugs and all this other stuff. But like, who can I talk to that actually is going through, quiet title in Oklahoma? And you throw it out there, and some random person you never even heard of is like, oh yeah, I did 2 of them in that county last year, and this is the best guy to get a hold of. Like, that's, believe me, I've sworn off of social media many, many times, but it's literally that kind of deal that keeps you involved. Because,
and LinkedIn is such a small niche. Like, it really is. All the circles are intertwined in some way. I've gotten emails from people who said, oh, hey, I saw you, comment on this or that, and you have wholesale here or there. I have this opportunity. Once you really start the snowball effect, happens, whether it's with agents or with its other investors, and they start to network with you. And, as long as you give to them, they give to you. We have agents who will call and be like, hey, take a look at this property. It might be a good subdivide, or wholesale opportunities. We just got a couple of those that are, and these are people that you can trust. I mean, I never met anyone in the land business who wasn't trustworthy.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like it's so cool. And I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just because dirt's not sexy and not everybody wants it and all this other stuff, right? And it seems like there are some younger folks, but it seems like almost everybody's about our age, right? Like that mid-30s to mid-40s. And we've done some other stuff. We've tried, we've hustled and everything else. But like, I don't know why that is, but it's weird. At least that I've seen, right? Like maybe, I don't know why that is, but it's something cool. And I think because it is such a small market, is once you get blackballed in one, you're toast. Which I know there's still probably some people that won't do it, but so. Okay, now on to masterclass, Terrence and Angela. Yeah, obviously, you've seen the courses, you've seen all that, things like that. But like, what have you gotten the most out of with it? Kind of, and why did y'all end up signing up for it? Because it's not cheap. But like, why did y'all sign up for it first of all? And then also like, what has it done kind of to add that one or two tools to your toolbox, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, when we signed up for it, I mean, we were looking to grow our business, expand it, get into some larger projects for sure. You sell enough quarter-acre lots in Florida, for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 more than you paid for them, and you're like, man, this is easy, but like, I want to make this business better. Like, how can I scale it? How can I grow it? And how can we buy a piece of property to where we can cut it up into these quarter-acre lots and not have to buy each one of them individually, So
at that point, the concept was just proven to us. It was, we know Justin and Adam from the course. We trusted them. We knew at this point from attending masterminds and things that we had to invest in our business. Like if we want to grow it, we have to invest, and we need to invest the right way. And it just seemed like a great opportunity.
And we're in a good area where we have large acreage that's for sale, and that that we could subdivide it. But it was just like, how do I get started with subdividing when I've never done it? And I looked at the county and I couldn't wrap my head around like how, it is. It's very overwhelming. I couldn't wrap my head around like, man, I got this large tract, but how do I cut this? How am I going to do this? So we needed that extra. We needed, we needed to join a class where people were experienced in doing it, that had the knowledge and, the proven projects that you guys have. You've done it, you've mastered it. So like, this is it. Like we were like, we need to invest in us, our business, and moving forward, to get these deals. So that's why we applied, and we're just extremely thankful that you guys selected us. So
and the accountability, I think, is huge.
Yeah,
he gets on the calls 3 times a week. I mean, it's real easy to just kind of get discouraged, give up. I mean, he's had many great deals that kind of fell through for one reason or another, but we know the right one is coming. It's just you really have to just keep going, and I think that's the main value of the class.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the, the relationships that you create with, not only you guys, but the guys in the class. I mean, it's just second to none. I mean, knowing these guys and seeing the deals that they're bringing to the table and, just getting to talk to them at the JL Bar Ranch and just everybody was so genuine, and they're all invested in their business, and we want to make this thing work, So
there's no competition.
No, there's no competition. Like, we're all in it to make this better. And that's what I love about it. I mean, that's what's great.
And I'm coming to the ranch.
Well, we're sold out in Sutton County. We'll have to see about Tom Green. Hopefully, we'll have 4 of the 11 sold here pretty quick in Carlsbad. We may have to do another one up in closer to DFW, but there's another place like that. So yeah, we'll have to do that. But it really is. That's what we Justin and Adam and I have talked about multiple times. It's so cool. Again, the quality of people. And again, we've had some people that applied that were like, heck no, I don't care how much they pay us. They're not doing it, right? And that even goes back to like, a deal that we did in Sonora, our first big one, like Justin, Adam, and I, like the first big one that we'd done in 2020 and everything is like, I was also the broker selling stuff on that. And I had a guy that was a huge pain in the ass. I was showing him stuff. He's out of Houston. He's just the biggest pain you've ever seen in your entire life. Like, just an asshole. And he basically was like, called me 2 days later. He's like, oh, I'll make an offer. I was like, no, we sold that one. Sorry. Because I don't want to deal with him. I don't care. And I don't want him to be part of, because these big subdivides, we basically turn into neighborhoods, right? That, you may be 100, 200, 300 acres of tract, but they're also a community that works together, right? And I was like, life is too short to deal with you. And so that's the same thing what we do on the masterclass stuff. We're like, listen, if it takes 10, if we take 11, if we take 4, whatever it is, like, we are going to keep the quality of human beings extremely high, right? And because that's who we want to build. That was the whole reason that we got into the master classes, because we want to build a network of people across the country that we know, like, and trust and want to do business with, right? For the long haul. And that's where a high quality relationship, an intensive training, because that's another thing, right? Like, Terrence, you're learning this. If I gave you just that course, for a certain price, it would help you, but it wouldn't be like, there's so much art to this stuff. It's insane, right? Like, that's another thing, like, you're figuring out too, is like, you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to cut these into 5s and just do whatever the hell I want to. No, you're not.
What we're getting out of this class,
No.
You can't sell online. You can't put in a book. Like, I mean, you can't. You need the experiences. Like, coming to Carlsbad and, just being there with the road guy and the surveyor, and I mean, just your dad being there. I mean, it was incredible. That whole experience, your dad's been doing this.
Yeah,
for
92.
Years.
92 is when he started. So.
I mean, just listening to him to talk to other people and getting to talk to him, I mean,
Yep.
I got smarter, you know what I mean? So, I mean, just in land, so you can't buy that. Like, I mean, it's just an experience that, you know what I mean, that you have to come out and see for yourself and, put your eyes on and wrap your head around. I mean, 1,200 acres cutting up into 100-acre ranchettes. I mean, if you didn't see it, you couldn't look at it on MapRight and say, wow, I can
for sure.
it.
And that's the cool thing. It's so funny because my dad was like, where the hell did all these people come from? I was like, the internet. It's like, he just shakes his head and walks away.
Well, I mean, you guys are pretty proud,
for
man.
sure.
I mean, you guys put together.
Yeah, for sure. And, and that was one of those things too, is he's like, well, shit, we don't need any more competition. I was like, it's not competition, Dad. Like, there's plenty of opportunities. And obviously, again, no one's really working our market. Believe me, there's plenty of other people that know what we do anyway, right? Like, there is competition. Like, that's all there is to it. But there's still not as much as, and a lot of these people don't know how to do anything except for go on lands of America and make lowball offers on stuff listed. And it still works. If you make enough offers, it'll still freaking work.
Yep.
But also, a lot of people don't know text messaging.
Yep.
They don't know direct mail, quality direct mail. They don't know cold calling. They don't know, SMS, or the SEO, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different ways, and that's what... And that's where I'm trying to be as my individual business, and what I'm trying to do is I'm literally trying to come in and provide value to anyone that is a landowner in the United States, whether that is to list it on a retail side, to partner, to buy from them. I want to have as many tools in the toolbox and make sure that the landowner, because the average age of a landowner in the United States is 68 years of age. And most of these, especially these larger landowners, they are cash poor and dirt rich, and this is the only asset they'll ever have. And so me growing up on a ranch and being multi-generational rancher and all this other stuff, but seeing that animal husbandry profession die and the values of land be completely catered to recreational usage, I want to make sure that I can help put as much money into their pocket as humanly possible, right? Whatever that is, if that means a short term, hey, I need to sell this thing, I'm done with it. I've owned this thing for 30 years. It's an eyesore. I still feel bad because I bought it for 130, but these people are wanting to come in and buy it for $30,000. I'm done. I'd much rather have the 30 grand and not have to dick with this thing anymore. Because I guarantee you, he could have found somebody to list that thing and sell it for $100,000. That was not as important to him. That was not as important to him as the money now and to be done with it.
Yeah.
going to say those are the ones who make the direct mailers still worth it, because you hear direct mail is getting harder and harder, and honestly most of our deals come from text now, but we'll still send out mailers and we'll get that one that would not have responded to text. That's they handwrite the letter back to you and sign it, and you can just tell that they're older. They never would have trusted a text message, and it's one of the that's our best deal that quarter. And that happens, and that's what keeps us going. Even if you have to do 3, 4, 5 mail campaigns just to get that one, it's still worth it.
Yeah, my biggest property that we have is through a direct mail, and it was sitting on his kitchen counter, and it just happened that he got it a week or two, prior to him thinking about selling it. He called his kids; both of them live out of the area, and he was like, "Hey, I want to give you guys the property," and they're like, "We don't want it. We live out here. Like, sell it, and we'll take the money, after you sell." So he looked on the kitchen counter, and there was our letter. And it was the first time I've ever had somebody who wanted to meet me for breakfast to discuss the land, and he lived 15 minutes down the street from us. So I looked at Angela and was like, "Man,
I've had meetings at Whataburger and Dairy Queen,
some people are
for sure."
Yeah. So I met the guy for breakfast. We sat down. I took a purchase contract for the property. Said, "Hey, this is what we're willing to pay for it." And he bought my breakfast and everything. And a week later, he signed a contract, and we got the property. So
now.
But that was probably the coolest thing that I've done in land, is been able to sit down with an actual landowner, and he was, just like
you provided that value. You provided that value to him, well, no matter whatever that is, right? Right, like he willingly sold that to you, and with a smile on his face, apparently, right? Like even bought your breakfast, and so you feel good by doing what you're doing, right? And so that's pretty cool. 100%. So. Y'all mentioned, and you can talk about it as much or not one way or other. So y'all also not just do mailers, but y'all also are doing text messaging. Are y'all doing anything else besides mailers and texting?
No, just mail and text right now. We're thinking about doing some ringless.
How big a pain in the ass is the text messaging, right? Because, and the only reason I bring this up is because we were at the one day last year, the live event with Justin and Adam. And Callan Faulkner had the deal on there, and she was doing all this other stuff. And I just sat in the back, and I was just like, this makes my head hurt.
Yep. Just
thinking about this. I understand that it works great, right? I come from a sales background. I understand follow up, multiple touches, all this other stuff. The value of building the list, the value of being able to market to these people over a long period of time. Because here's the thing. Land doesn't change. People changes, and people's needs change, right? That's all that matters. And the bigger, whoever has the most data, as far as the biggest mailing list or texting list or whatever it is, or marketing list, is the one that wins. I don't give a shit what it is, whether you're selling socks, whether you're selling, yachts, whatever it is. Like, you got to, whoever has the biggest list that people know, like, and trust you, they're going to want to do business with you. And so how is that nightmare from what I think it's going to be actually like come into fruition in real life?
Yeah, well, I would say number one, it really helps you, like you mentioned the list, it helps you squeeze your data, because we'll mail a county and then we'll turn around and wait a little bit and then we'll text the county, and then we'll squeeze deals out even far after the mailer is expired just through text. And then we have counties that we just strictly text as well too. But it's definitely a pain. There's no way around it. You have to be pretty much dedicated full-time to managing it, because the barrier to response for people is so low. If they're responding to your mailer, either they're sending you profanities because they want to, or
that's always the fun thing. You're like, ooh, is this a signed purchase agreement, or is this a FU? Right? Like, you're like, ooh, what is this? Which one is this?
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, man, people will spend the money on a stamp to say FU.
Yeah. But it's easier for them to just shoot that text back, right? I mean, that's like way less barrier, so that you have to sift through so many more. I mean, it's just it'll bury you if you're not prepared for it.
And I will say that, we focus on two separate markets. Like, we focus on the local market around where we're at, the counties that surround us, and through texting, like, for that, I create a response that says, "We are your local land investing company," because text messaging, you don't know where it's coming from. We try and use a local number, but I want them to know, like, we are based in here and we are your local land investing company. trash all your other text messages, throw all your mailers away, but we're trying to, grab this market. Like, we want to be the local land investing company. And then Angela focuses on the Floridas, the Georgias, those type of areas. And we do really well with that too. But I want to seize the market in this area. I want everybody to know who GCS Land Investing is. I'll put us up on billboards on interstates if I have to, but I want to be the company.
Well, this area is very old-fashioned. I mean, they are definitely less likely to trust a text message, for sure.
For sure.
So we kind of have to go that extra step with them. But yeah, I definitely, all the little stuff that I still do, I mean, it's what runs our business day to day. All these little deals. I mean, it's just kind of fun for me to do. And I do those with our VA. We kind of do that full-time together. She runs the texting full-time. I would say my biggest thing with texting is have somebody who will do it full-time. Because you don't want to be in there. It's such a time suck. And also, Callan is a genius. I mean, she set ours up completely. I definitely recommend not setting it up yourself because she will have that, response, the drips, the follow-up campaigns, all of that, all of these different templates for you to use that are vetted, that are, legal. They're not using the buzzwords that, the carriers will spam you for, things like that. There's a lot surrounding that, that's just beyond my knowledge level. So to have someone set it up, I think is key. It's worth it, honestly. I would say that the follow-up is the biggest thing, and that's what you can't do as much with just direct mail. I mean, a text message goes out, and if they don't respond, it automatically goes out again, a month later. And then you can do a month after that. You can put them on a drip, which means, you can automatically send a follow-up, whether it's 4 weeks, 3 months, 4 months. And doing that, it's been amazing. I would say 90% of the deals that we get are from follow-ups and not.
Which is sales. Which is freaking sales, right? Like that. If anyone's ever been in sales, that's exactly the game. That is especially B2B, right? Like you may, and I've had guys, and especially in the oil field, right, with giant companies. They're like, Trevor, we love you. We think you're fantastic, but we can't use you, right? And, for other reasons and things like this. But that's literally after 30 phone calls, 2 lunches, a round of golf, all this other stuff. Like, get over it. Like, I don't understand why, because it's been so easy. Because the barrier of entry has been so easy in the land business, right? Like, that's where we've got to actually build up, follow through on all this stuff. But the cool thing is whenever you do that, you're one day closer for that person to see that, right? Something to change in their life, and allows you to do that in the instead of having to mail that same people once a month or whatever it is to stay on top of mind, you're able to take that and do it on a scale automatically because the numbers just get too big, right? Like you can't make 400 phone calls a day, right? Saying, hey, just letting you know, hey, I'm still here. I'd love to work with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, people don't want it. And then second of all, like you said, it's these little things that you can tweak. But the bigger the funnel, the cool thing is also the bigger the funnel you have up top, it's also the more you're going to have at the bottom, right? When they are ready for you. And so that's where I'm having to come up with this. And I've got a call in an hour with a company that we're going to start doing a lot of like cold calling, but not in a hard pushy way, just introducing ourselves and what we do and how we can help them, right? Like that's the kind of stuff. And then my only goal is to build as many names and landowners as humanly possible on the top of that deal. And I know it's going to take time for things to change. You know what I mean? And who knows? You may get a deal tomorrow. It may be 2 years from now, but they never leave my circle, right? That's the goal and the dream. Obviously they are, and they're going to sell, and they're going to do their own things, and they're going to inherit other stuff in one way or other. But there's always that chance, right? Because that's what we are. We are in a marketing business. And the interesting thing about that is we're not marketing to 30-year-old housewives. We're marketing to 68-year-old folks that don't use the technology that we normally used to, right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think another big benefit of the text message is also that it just keeps you going because it's not cheap. I mean, I think we pay almost $700 a month now. The price seems to keep going up. Yeah. But so you want to make sure you're sending the max amount per day that you can get for your money. So if I'm starting to run low, I'm like, okay, I got to go pull more data. We got to fill it up. Like we don't want to waste. So I think that actually drives you to.
No, yeah, well, yeah. Same thing with, when you're going to put a bunch of money into a masterclass, you're going to be on all the calls. Right, like that's the commitment, right? And you're committing yourself to that, and that's just the way that the human psyche works, right? hey, I said I was going to do this. By golly, we're going to do it. Because otherwise we're just burning $100 bills outside right now, So what are you having to do as far as like with your text messages and things like that? Are you getting a big pushback as far as not being able to deliver stuff? Are y'all having issues with like deliverability and stuff like this? Because that's the difference between getting on some of these Facebook groups, right? Versus someone who's actually doing it and doing it the right way, right? And so even on the realtor side, right, like because of my brokerage and my license, I can't do certain things that someone who doesn't have a broker or that doesn't have a license, right? Like there's certain rules and regs with National Association of Realtors that I can't really do, right? And so that's another hurdle I have to deal with, right? And so anyway, but so are y'all still having the deliverability? Are you still getting what you want? I mean, are y'all having a hard time like finding even the numbers, right? Some of this land stuff hasn't been traded in a long time, but they're in an LLC, they're in trust, they're in all this other stuff. Like, are you having a hard time first finding the numbers and then two getting them to the people that you need to?
Actually, no, we haven't had much of a problem. For skip tracing, we use direct skip, and usually it comes back between 90
Wow,
and 90%.
that's fantastic.
It matches. And so,
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can credit Callan for that too. She's, she really sifts through, and she's tried several companies.
Yeah, when she did the presentation last year in August, that's what she suggested.
Yeah, because I know the LLC thing trips up a lot of the other ones that makes it a lot less successful. But for some, I guess they just have that figured out. And so, no,
that's
we haven't
good.
really
That's
had
good.
any problems
So,
there.
so let's say, how big a list are you pulling lots of times? Like, let's just say for monthly marketing, right? Like, how many people are you pulling? Is it, 500, 5,000, 50,000? And then how many of those are you trying to reach out to in a month, right?
I would say probably about 2,500 to 5,000.
And those are the ones that you actually pull and actually get the numbers for.
I would say half of that we pull and get the numbers for. The other half are through follow-ups. Because with launch control that we use for texting, they still count your quota for the day with ones that are like ready and prepared.
Yeah. It's still a text that goes out, right? Yep.
Yeah. So those would be like additional touches, half of that, and I would say 2,500 would be like about the new ones.
Awesome.
That we do.
Awesome. So out of all that, how many are no responses, like percentage wise, and then FU die? I can't believe you know what I mean. Like I'm sure you get some unbelievably creative responses.
Yeah. I'll tell you. So one of our realtors that we work with in West Virginia said that they're still fighting a civil war up here. So I mean, if that gives you an indication on you trying to buy somebody's land, on what kind of responses you're going to get, I'll just leave you an open mind to what we get. But yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It largely depends. I mean, it varies.
It's a really low. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's low.
It is low.
Yeah.
What I would say I love the most about it is so when the follow-ups kick in, there'll be 6 or 7 times somebody gets a text message and you get no response. Well, you can go back and look at that. I can see it. Like I was combing through that this morning. I went to the last page of our text messages for West Virginia, and I'm just seeing 10, 15 people that have had 6 text messages sent to them, no response. When we slow down, or I slow down on my side a little bit, I go back and then I personalize these text messages. So I'll go back and I'll give them a personalized one. They're not going to get the generic one that just comes every month. I'll go back to them and I'll say, you know what, we're slow right now. I can get a deal out of this. So I'll go back and I'll personalize it, their name, who I am, where we're at, So I like that fact of it. You know what I mean? That you can go back and you can sit there and comb through some of these leads and personalize them and try and get these people to respond. So it's like a game. I mean, it's like a
welcome to sales.
It's a game,
right? Like that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Overall, the data tracking this percent, I'm not the best.
No, yeah, but so out of that, like how many deals are y'all having to underwrite every week, right? Like that are pretty. Hey, yeah, I'll sell it. You know what I mean? Like, is it like that? That's what I'm trying to get to, right? Because there's a certain point where you're like, okay, I need to look at this. I can underwrite 10 deals a week. I can underwrite 20 deals a week. But anything over that, I'm freaking out, right? Like there's just too much going on,
Yeah, so I mean that's where our VA comes in. So she does all the initial screening. So she does all the initial text messages. She engages them back and forth. And if they were say one word like yes or something like that, then she'll ask follow-up questions like, can you tell me a little bit about the property? And so if they're willing to then engage in that conversation, then she'll call them. She'll give more
That's
about
the key,
property. She'll do the
right?
research.
Because I get text messages
Yeah.
on stuff I still own all the time. And I mess with them all the time, but also a lot of the times I'm like, hell yes, I got lots of lands. I'll sell it to you all, and then never hear anything from them.
Yes.
And I don't.
Yes.
Right.
Because they're probably screening you saying, all right, this isn't legit. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I get them all the time. I'll look at them and I'll look at Angela and I'll be like, there's no way that this person actually, you know what I mean? It's either a wrong number and they're running with it, and that's the thing.
I might actually sell them. I don't know. I've still got
Me
stuff
too.
that I don't even know where the hell's at. So like, I get it.
Yeah. And we've trained her for those situations.
I'm
Like, when
being
follow-up
too
questions,
aggressive
so
with
she's
my
not wasting
acceptance.
our
Is what you're
time.
saying. Okay.
Yeah. I don't see them, and then she puts them into like a shared Google sheet that we use. So I don't see them unless they're truly interested in an offer. This is what they're looking to get for the property, and she'll put everything she knows about it, the map right link. Then I'll look at it and confirm the offer.
Okay.
She'll make the offer.
So this gal's a key cog in y'all's business, right? Or man or woman. Anyway. So what are y'all like? Is this a U.S. based person? Is this a Philippine? Okay.
She's in the Philippines.
So
She's in the
is
Philippines.
this someone that you hired yourself, right, through Fiverr or Odesk or something like this, or is this something that came with Callan and all that?
Actually, it came through Clint Turner's group. So he trained.
Oh, Clint! I love Clint.
Yeah.
I like picking on Clint, but he's so smart when it comes to all this stuff. Like I'm just a country bumpkin, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I did this, and I zap here and all this other stuff," and I was just standing there, and just be like, "Wow, I don't understand any of that." Oh, you just told me.
Yeah, his automation is off the charts. But we were part of his pioneer group for the VA program. So he partnered with a agency in the Philippines who specializes in real estate
Very cool.
focused VAs. So they train them in the acquisitions process. And then what Clint did was part of his program is he takes them for a few weeks and trains them to the land specific stuff. So, but then every week she continues to get sales training through the group that she's with, and so it's been great. I mean, we're probably paying more than if we just done one on our own. But
everybody, but for that ease of use, right? Again, like we talked about, money partners, all this other stuff. It's worth it. The cost, right, is
for sure. You have to invest.
And here's another thing that y'all also mentioned, right? Adam and Justin. Masterclass, Clint Turner's course, right? Like y'all are picking and choosing, and you're being not dogmatic. You're being able to pick and choose take what's the best and get rid of the rest, right? And that's what people need to understand is, yes, there's a fine line between taking every damn course out there and not getting shit done. And like you've listened to my other podcasts, things like this. It's like, hey, for 180 days, that's what I need you at. If you're a new person, you need to stick to something for 180 days. I don't give a shit if it's text messages, smoke signals, whatever the hell it is. You need to find your whatever, course guru, whatever the hell you want to call it, and you need to put 6 months minimum, right? Once you start building an actual business and you start paying for all this other stuff, then you come in and add to it, right? And so, but that's where we're at. And so you're like, well, I paid this much, one way or other. But y'all are building Terrence and Angela's mix for y'all's business, right? And it's going to be different for all of us. But just realize, like, it is totally worth it, and your rate of return is better on your investment in you and your company and your knowledge and your systems than anything else you could ever hope for, right? So spend the money, learn the stuff, pay a little bit more, and you'll be light years ahead of where you're at, right? And that's what I'm saying. Y'all are already doing all this stuff. Terrence is talking to us in Masterclass like he's got a couple deals that are freaking home runs that we can get done on the subdivide stuff, right? That pays for Masterclass and a hell of a lot more, right? And it's also a tool belt. It's a tool in your tool belt that you can have forever, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's a mental hurdle that to take that next step in your business, you just have to get past.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. And all of us have to do that. And the thing is I think that, because as you know, like, you know, I've got a face for radio, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I've got a real twang and all this other stuff. But, like, one thing about it is, like, I'm not afraid to work, right? And I'm not afraid to put myself out there in uncomfortable situations. And I think that's where it comes back from, anywhere just going from a W-2, right? Like we talked about, like, you let 100 people know, like, all those guys are and gals are more than capable mentally and probably financially, maybe even we're further ahead than y'all were, right? To do exactly what you're doing, but they're not. And it's because they got to overcome that mental block for whatever it is that they're dealing with, right? Whether it's the paradigm that they grew up with, whether that is who they hang out with, whether that is whatever that may be, right? That's the difference between the winners and losers when it comes to the entrepreneurial side, right? And understanding, like, this is nothing but a game. Like, the tactics, we can talk tactics and follow-ups and all this other stuff, but to be honest with you, it's the actual investment in yourself and the belief in yourself that makes or breaks any of it, right? That's the hard shit whenever things go sideways and you're just like, F this day, I'm done, I don't want to talk about it, I'm you know, we're going to go to dinner, I don't want to think about it, and then you got to be like, the next day, okay, you had your 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Back at it. Right. And I think that's the key to anyone and everyone's, you know, success in this business or anybody else's business. So where, you know, we've already been an hour here, like, where are y'all seeing next 2 years for you and your business and your family and things like that? Like, what are y'all seeing your goals in kind of the shorter end game, right? Like the next 2-3 years, what are you wanting to be? Are you wanting to, you know, your individual land businesses? Like, again, you know, hey, I do everything within 50 miles of my house, and I'm the dude, or we're the we're the family, we're the land family, and we run this part of the world. Or is it, you know, nationwide? Like, what are y'all kind of thinking about?
I don't know. What do you think, Sue?
I think, well, I mean,
I know. So I got 4 years left till I can retire. So I can go with 20 years with with retirement from where I'm at work, and I'm 100% devoted to that. Like, I want to be done, and I want to focus on this business, and I'm hoping to scale it and grow it in the meantime. Just because I enjoy it. Like, I mean, this to me is so much fun doing this type of work. I mean, I've never been the entrepreneurial type. Like I said, I've been in public safety since, you know, I was 14. My dad was a volunteer fire chief. I grew up that, you know, for 30 years, just, you know, following and, you know, watching him do what he does. And this never even crossed my mind. But honestly, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was spending 700 hours in overtime at work just to make $100,000. I can make that in 2 land deals a year. You know what I mean? And I'm home more with the kids. I know. But I'm home more with the kids, you know, which is great. I'm not living at the fire station, you know, like I used to. So, I mean, this land business in general has made my life so much more prosperous, just in the fact that I can be at home more. So
yeah, I would say, focusing more on our quality of life. I mean, to be honest, it takes, and, you know, it just takes just as much work to do a large deal as it does to do a small one. I mean, all the principles around it are the same. So I would really like to hone in on our local area, more of the subdivide stuff, more partnering with local agents, and just kind of scale back on the quantity, but really increase the quality of what we're doing and the size of what we're doing to continue to improve the quality of life even more. I mean, we love to travel. We'd like to do some more traveling. And we've done deals from the beach last year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's amazing.
And that's one thing, is when do you shut it off? That's our biggest problem now. Is like, you know, and I know some of the guys during the, you know, accountability calls, you know, have mentioned, like, hey, man, when do we turn this off?
You never turn it off. You die. You get 75 years old doing a deal, and you end up
so wrapped up
face first on your desk.
Yeah. You can get so wrapped up in it. I mean, it's just like, you know.
Such a freeing feeling that, you know, you are 100% responsible for the outcome. I mean, the more you put in, the more you get out. I mean, I mean, what else can you say you do the same unless you own your own business? I mean, it's really
here's the deal, though, and I'll tell you this, like, doing big deals is they're awesome, but they take longer to pay out, right? And so that hit, that dopamine hit, that, oh man, here's another 15, here's another 20, here's another 20, here's another 12, here's another, you know what I mean? The volume is not there, okay? And so you can almost get yourself in a bind though when you have too much time to think, right? And so you've got to understand, like, hey, this payday may be $500,000, but it may be a year and a half out before we can get there, okay? That's why, again, continuing what y'all are already doing, but maybe scaling it down some, right? You know what I'm saying? But then also keeping your powder dry in your pocket and using those those investing partners on your smaller stuff while you're waiting for that big hit to come, right? Because it literally, this is like the first 60 days is everything. After that, then it's just on the market, and then you're just waiting, right? And
Yep.
And I would say creating just, partnerships and just, with like our realtors. Like, I've got like 3 or 4 realtors that I feel like we're like personal friends now. I've called them up and told them, what we do. And I said, look, I'm just looking to make a lot of money and, make you some money as well. So we've created we've forged these partnerships where these guys will call me if they get something that they think that I would be interested in buying. I don't even have to call them. I got one guy that calls me after 3 days and he's like, hey, I haven't heard from you. Everything all right, So, moving forward, my focus is going to be on to create more of these partnerships with these realtors and the counties that surround us and just go after.
And here's another thing too, and I know we've talked about it on the call before, but I don't know how big of a pain in the backside it is to get your license, your real estate license. But the cool thing is that's another thing that I've got 3 closings this month on deals I never saw, I marketed to, and I referred those to people, right? And so if you're going to spend all that money marketing, you might as well refer it. And if they want retail, and that's all they're going to take, all this other stuff, there's still a way for you to get paid 25, 30% of what your referral fee is. And depending on the deal, that could be like I'm going to make over $10,000 in the next month on referral fees on basically just paying for my marketing, right? Like that's the kind of stuff. And so, and the cool thing with that though, too, Terrence, is whenever you do have a deal, and you don't want to list it, but you call, maybe one of these guys has called you on a deal and you decide to do a subdivide. Well, now you're getting calls and it's a deal that won't make a subdivide deal, but you're like, hey, Jim Bob, hey man, now let me feed you again, right? Like let me help you. And then you've built a really cool dynamic where it's a win-win for everyone no matter what the hell happens. Right?
Yeah, and I would say, I focused on, realtor relationships, but it was the master class that made me focus on the banker, the surveyor, the engineer, and the road guy. And my road guy just called me last week with a deal. You know what I mean? So, he wants to create
because he gets paid. He does good when you do good.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The surveyor, the same thing. Like now we all continuously keep in contact about properties that are coming up, and they're looking out for me just as I'd be looking out for them to get them the deal to survey the land. So it's not just a realtor; it's our banker, like everybody. It's cool, man. You just form this little circle of people, and
that's what's so cool about it is
other.
because and I've talked about this, from the very get go is there's less risk doing a big deal than there is buying a bunch of lots in Florida. Because again, you got 5 or 6 people that are looking out for you, right? And especially if you bring in investors, right?
Yeah.
And now, and the investors are like, hell yeah, I want in on that. That's a good deal. If they're like, hell no, I don't want in on that. You better work your numbers again. And so
absolutely.
that's something that not a lot of people think about. But that's what's cool about that is as you build that sphere of influence, you can slowly build out. And in 30 years, Terrence, now you've got, not something in the whole state of Virginia or West Virginia or things like that, but yeah, right? Y'all are the family that does shit out here, right? And that's what's super cool about that. And then you can potentially, if obviously your kids decide to do whatever the hell they want to do with life, but that's something that can be a lineage type deal, right? And that's what gets you, as a parent, that's what gets you excited about it, right? Because the name, what it means when you do things the right way, right? And that's also why I had that little rah-rah speech, right? That last day at JL Bar. Like, don't do things the right way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're out of our group, right? If I catch you doing a bunch of shit stuff, raping and pillaging, tearing up land, doing things not the right way, you're not part of this group, right? Because we want people that are good people that do the things the right way. And the cool thing is
Absolutely.
that works both ways. If you do things the right way, your name grows in y'all's neck of the woods, and people know what you do and how you do it. Same thing with my family, right? Like, people know in this part of the world, they know what we're going to do. They know what we're going to do. Like, there's not a seller that doesn't know whenever they sign a contract with us what the hell we're going to do. But they also know that we're going to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Right? And so
Absolutely.
that's where I'm trying to expand my circle, right, out of just a small part of the world, and do this and have these conversations and things like that. And so that's what's so cool is when you do things the right way, your reputation precedes you, and it happens quicker than you think. You know what I mean? But the good thing about that is when you do good work, when you do good by doing good, man, the sky's the limit. You know. So anyway, well, again, been on here way too long. Where can people get a hold of y'all? Kind of let them know where y'all are looking at in Virginia, West Virginia. You know what I'm saying? People bring you deals. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Let everybody know, and then I'll make sure to drop everything in the show notes as well.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, GCS Land Investments is our company. And that's also named after our boys, G.
That's awesome.
And Carter. GCS Land Investments. Yeah. My email is angela@gcslandinvestments.com.
And mine is Terence at GCS Land Investments, and that's because nobody can spell my first name right. T-E-R-E.
Yeah, I had it wrong on the phone the first time too.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I'm sure you did.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. Appreciate that. Yeah.
We're about an hour and a half outside of the Washington, D.C. area. So we're in kind of the northern part of Virginia, northern, eastern, and then West Virginia. I mean, pretty much all of it.
Yeah. So we focus, West Virginia, the northern portion of Virginia, and then, we buy land all over. So, I mean, we're kind of focused in Florida, Georgia. We've done some Arizona. We've done it all. Colorado, New Mexico, Oregon. So, because we try and test the markets out in different places. We know where our bread and butter is, and that's the West Virginia, because that's close to home. But we always try.
But if someone if someone hears this and is in, like I said, Northern Virginia or West Virginia and has a lead on a deal that's way too big for them, reach out to y'all and they be absolutely. So anyway, well, thanks guys. We're gonna call this one. Thank y'all again for your time and everything. And like I said, if you have anything in Virginia or West Virginia, reach out to Terrence and Angela, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let me stop here.